Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Lauren Cielo from Golden Rose Psychic Services.
And I'm Crystal Heineman from Crystal Sunshine Psychic Services.
Welcome to the Metaphysical Q&A podcast,
where we are making metaphysics crystal clear
and golden delicious.
So Metaphysical Q&A, if this is your first time visiting Dr. Lauren and myself, we're an audio and video podcast that we're really hoping is going to shift the way each human views their experiences that they're having here on this earth plane.
That's right. As professional clairvoyant healers and teachers, Crystal and I use this platform to help explain in easily understood terms the metaphysics behind everything that we experience.
And our viewers and listeners supply the questions. That's you. So please, we need your questions. Could you please submit your questions at www.metaphysicalqa.com? And also, if you enjoy our podcast, would you please subscribe? Would you please click the bell for notifications? And if you're listening to this in audio format, would you please rank us? Please review us. Please share us. We would love it. You can also visit our other social media pages. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, and it's just Metaphysical Q&A. And of course, if we read one of your questions that you so graciously submitted to us, one of us will offer you a free reading.
There you go. Well, Crystal, let's get on to today's questions.
All right. Well, we have 3 really great questions today. So, Lauren, here we go.
All right, let's do it.
So question number 1 comes from Bob in Arizona, and Bob asks, what is DNA activation?
Ooh.
And then Barbara in Minnesota, she wants to know, how can I tell if my DNA has been activated?
Okay.
I'm really interested in these questions. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. And then question number 3 comes from Bruce in El Paso, Texas. Hello. And Bruce wants to know, how can I consciously activate my DNA? So Lauren, obviously there's a theme like we usually have here over at MQA. So how about we title this podcast, The Metaphysics of DNA Activation?
Excellent. And Crystal, do you happen to know a DNA activation expert?
Well, the funny thing is we actually do know a DNA activation expert. So I sure do. So we're so excited to introduce to our audience. It's been a long time coming. International speaker, retreat host, and of course, DNA activator, the lovely Zoe Davenport. Now, Zoe, she's based out of Glastonbury, UK, so she's out over there across the pond, if you will. But her work, of course, being a retreat host and this amazing international speaker, her work really takes her to 4 corners of the world, which I can relate to.
Oh, that's an excellent choice. Now, Zoe was born with extrasensory abilities, has been studying self-love, quantum physics, and ascension for the last 10 years. Now, she's also an author. The name of her book is Love is the Answer, a guide to awakening the heart and stepping into true authenticity. So please welcome Zoe Davenport, our special guest and DNA activation expert.
Hi, Zoe. We're so excited to have you. Thanks for coming to MQA today.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so full disclosure, everyone. I had the great opportunity to be interviewed by Zoe, and you can see that interview on her YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and search on Zoe Davenport. And I certainly hope I do as good a job as Zoe did.
Excellent. I'm so excited for today. We've been trying for quite some time to welcome Zoe into our show. And of course, we've all had to work through some energy to actually get here today in our physical form. So we're really excited to bring our show today. So Zoe, before we get into, of course, our viewers' questions, I'd love to ask you, how did you get into DNA activation? And then also, how do you use it in your own life?
Thank you. Yeah, it's great to be here. How did I get into DNA activation? I would say that it started about 7 years ago when I started to do some energy training certifications. And during the certifications, my course facilitator actually realized that what was coming through me wasn't actually what they normally teach. And they were quite surprised. And I didn't know what was going on. I didn't really have an idea of what DNA activation was at the time. But it was probably one of the most profound experiences I've ever had. And what happened was I was being attuned to this so-called energy system from this certification program. But I actually was on the bed and I could see the course facilitator and I was in the room. And then suddenly the room totally merged into Atlantis. And I was on the bed and then I could see all of my angels and guides stood around the bed. And I felt that my energy was almost levitating out of my body. And my left hand then kind of like raised up like it was being guided and started to draw 3 symbols very quickly, like over and over and over again. And I felt that it was like, I've really got to remember these symbols. And even, I was very much consciously aware, but I was seeing this area being not in my physical formation. And I was told, like, one of my guides was there and they shared, we're giving you 3 for now because the energy is so high. We don't want to kind of rupture your brain cells, but you are being integrated to these symbols and you're going to teach this one day. And at the time I was like, I felt like a little puppy. I didn't know what was happening. But it was quite clear that the healing modality that I was attuned to, I was not doing that healing modality. It was just an entry point for me to be activated to what I was really meant to be doing. And so the evolution of that, I guess, has been many more deep meditative ceremonies with self in different places where I started to receive more of these symbols through my consciousness. And what happened was the first 2 original and the third I still draw, but this first 2 I was then guided to have them tattooed on my wrists 3 months after the initial initiation. So you can see this one, which is activating, and then this one is clearing.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so what my guide shared with me at the time is that my body is a light body. My body is a portal. And as I'm channeling energy, I'm channeling these ancient kind of almost like alien technology through my body by drawing these symbols. And what I found from that, I was doing this like original healing modality I was trained in, but all of these symbols would just come through. They would stream through my third eye like a consciousness of light language, and I would draw them when I'm working with people. So I already knew it was way beyond Reiki, it was way beyond Shambhala, it was way beyond anything that I could actually read about online. At the time, I couldn't find any information for what was coming through me, and I felt I needed to keep it quite hidden and not really share that that's what I was doing, because I had that old paradigm of like, well, you've got to do a certification to be doing a certain thing. But actually it was just my presence, my light that was wanting to channel through. So that's kind of how I got started. And obviously there's been a huge evolutionary journey to that, which I'm sure the questions you have will dive into that. And then what was your other question? Like, how do I use it in everyday life?
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
Well, I use it in everyday life. Like I have 3 of these DNA activation symbols like tattooed on my body. So it's a constant reminder of my connection to source, of my soul purpose, of my message that I'm here to share with humanity, with my own evolutionary journey, how it is affected my life, is who I am now is beyond recognition to who I was before I started that journey. And I would say, like, I've been on this journey of awakening my whole life, but more importantly, the last 10 years very consciously, where I was actively studying personal development, studying quantum physics, studying awakening, and actually having physical things happen in recognition to that. So I would say the first kind of 3 to 4 years of that awakening was much about the dark night of the soul, the shadow work, the karmic soul work that needed to be released. And then the evolution of that was then accessing these higher states of consciousness where these DNA codes reside. And so as I use this every day in my life, how I do DNA activation is through toning and ceremonial chanting. And so quite often when I'm in the car, I'm toning, I'm speaking light language. When I'm making food, I'm channeling good positive energy into the food. And so it's a bit similar to Reiki, where you would do little symbols and bless your home. And, you know, I always say this kind of energy is like Reiki on steroids. It's like that real higher consciousness just coming through. And how it's affected my life is, as I said, it's beyond recognition. I look at photos of myself 5-10 years ago, and it's a different person. Like I literally don't recognize myself. Mm-hmm. And this is only the beginning. Right here, right now, in this moment, there is so much more yet to unfold and discover about consciousness and energy. And I feel as a collective, we have so much tools and resources available to us, yet there is so much more information that is starting to come through us, through our hearts to share. And it's a really, to me, it's really exciting. And I feel that DNA activation is something that's going to be very widespread in the next 5 to 10 years, because there's starting to be scientific evidence coming through of the effects of sound healing. So, yeah.
Gosh, I've already learned so much about a subject I had known nothing about. So, Zoe, are you ready to answer the questions that our audience posed?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Let's get to it.
All right. Okay, Zoe. So question number 1 comes from Bob in Arizona. And Bob wants to know, Zoe, what is DNA activation?
Well, hi, Bob. Blessings to meet you and receive your question. What is DNA activation? In its simplest form, as humans right now in our current incarnation, we are only really using 2 strands of DNA. And scientists for years have said that the other strands of DNA is junk DNA. There's no such thing as junk DNA. Everything is divinely orchestrated to the harmonic tone of the universe. What that actually means is they don't know. And because they don't know, they have just assumed that it's not part of who we are meant to be. When 12 strands of DNA are fully activated, we are activated to our divine blueprint. Our divine blueprint was our original intention as source creators in experiencing ourselves into our human form. And so what DNA activation does is through sound healing, it vibrates the DNA to the frequency of where it's meant to be. So it's waking it up. So the DNA is effectively sleeping. When we wake the DNA up, it activates within our cellular memory of how it can connect itself to its multidimensional version, its higher heart, its higher self, its self as source creator, so that it has all of the emotional and universal intelligence it needs to have its full divine expression, where all of its spiritual gifts are fully restored and activated. The third eye is wide open. All of the senses are working in harmony. And so what DNA activation does is, on a scientific level, we are shifting from carbon density to crystalline frequency. So we are becoming less dense and more light. When we are activating as a light body, we may look the same, we may taste the same, we may smell the same, we may speak the same. But under a specific energetic microscope, we will actually see that we are no longer resonating at a frequency of density. And when we shift and raise our vibration to a lighter density, while we shift the environment of our reality around us, because all reality is, it's waves of pattern and intention. And so we have been very dense because of our dormant strands of DNA. And so as we're activated, we become lighter in our experiences, and we match the vibrations of the harmonies of abundance, joy, gratitude, love, surrendering, compassion, all of these beautiful ways of being as a human that are no longer stuck and trapped in fear, illusion, scarcity, envy, comparison, judgment, expectation, attachment. We become our own sovereign beings of creators, and we know that in each moment of joy, we are instant manifestors. So DNA activation is like so important for us to start becoming accustomed to. And eventually, over the course of a person's spiritual and evolutionary journey of them diving into what is spirituality, what are angels, what are guides, what is their third eye, what is an empath, what is energy, they will start to then evolve into what is DNA activation, because that is the evolution of what we are ready to receive. Now, for years, humanity's consciousness wasn't quite ready to start activating in the way that it is now, because we were too dense. But now we are opening up and we're ready to receive. So more people that are starting to work with their third eyes and opening that are accessing these higher states of consciousness, and your DNA starts to naturally activate and evolve with time as well. DNA activation is just an acceleration of that. And so the DNA activations that I do are of a frequency beyond this dimension. They go right up to the 27th dimension. And so with time, that is shifting a person's way of being, thinking, and feeling into who they truly want to embody. So it's that version inside ourselves that we've known our entire life that we truly are. We don't know how to access them. We start to unravel them. They start to come out. They start to naturally evolve into who we are. So I hope that's answered your question.
Oh, that was great. All right. That was fantastic, Zoe. Thank you so much. And Bob, thank you so much for stimulating that answer out of Zoe. We really appreciate it. Now, Bob, what I'm going to do is I got my crystals in hand, so I'm going to take a little peek at you, and I'm going to see what your higher self has to say about DNA activation, or maybe your personal activation. We never know. Let's see what we're going to see. The first image that I see is I see your head. And Zoe probably knows much more about this than I do. I'm just a newbie at all of this. But what I see is actually energy inside your head, and it's moving around in a circle like this. Now, when Zoe mentioned her service of doing DNA activations, I totally see that that's probably why you asked this question and why we brought in Zoe as the expert, because I think your higher self has a contract to work with Zoe to help activate your DNA. Now, when I look back at it again, I feel you've tried to do this in other lives. And it's interesting because I know after listening to Zoe that she uses sound as the media of vibration, but you've used something different in a different life, and maybe because of that technique and the energy on the planet at that time, I don't think it worked well, my friend. But it was magnetic. You and I feel it's like Egyptian or something like that, where you guys tried to use magnetics to activate DNA. Well, congratulations, Bob. You're in a time and space where we've got a DNA activator right here. So I would think that your higher self is probably going to motivate you to book with Zoe. I'm just based on what I've seen and that failed attempt in another life. So maybe sound would be a little bit better for you in this time and space to help. But I guess when I saw the energy moving in your head like that, I thought it was a sign of activation. That's what I thought. So I hope that helps. On to question number 2, and it comes from Barbara in Minnesota. Zoe, Barbara wants to know, how can she tell if her DNA is activating?
Sure. Hi, Barbara. Nice to meet you. How can you tell if your DNA has been activated? You are constantly updating yourself through each of the beautiful things you do for yourself to cleanse, clear, purify, and restore yourself back to the natural state of your divine consciousness. What do I mean by this? The more you are doing to detox your body, the more you are doing to cleanse your physical environment, the more you are doing to let go of friends and beings that no longer serve your highest good, the more that you are letting go of food choices and chemicals in the home, all of that is helping you to raise your vibration and activate your DNA. How can you tell if you're activated, if your DNA is activated? How do you feel about yourself? How has your reality shifted? What were your intentions moving into your awakening and your spiritual journey? How has that evolved for you over the last few years, or however long you have been on this journey? It's always important to come back to marking points and remember those thoughts that you had maybe a year ago or a couple of years ago of like, I don't know how this is going to unfold for me. I don't know how this is going to work out, compared to where you are now. What has evolved? What has shifted for you? It is the way in which you feel about yourself, but more importantly, and this is where I really love looking at old photos, is how you look, because there will be a vibrancy to your eyes. There will be a light around your being. People will tell you, you look different. What are you doing? Have you changed your hair? Or what is it about you? You will just naturally know that you are a presence. And as you walk and spend your time with others, you are in a state of giving, gifting and receiving the vibration of joy and gratitude. So that's how you know if your DNA is being activated. And also, what is coming up for you emotionally is a part of the release. And I see so many times when people start to go through and want to understand more about DNA activation and activating their light body and going through ascension, a lot of stuff comes up. And beings are like, wow, I didn't ask for this. And the universe is like, this is everything that's in the way. So it's really important when you're going through these transitions, and I'm just sharing this because it's coming through, is to honor where you're at and honor your emotions and honor the release that needs to happen because of that. So if you need to be on the floor and cry for a day, surrender to that, because you are releasing so many layers of density that the quickest way sometimes is to come through your tears or to come through feeling emotional. And trust me, I've spent many, many, many days in those processes, and it's been so powerful to my transformation. So I hope that answers your question.
That was amazing. That was amazing. And quite honestly, about 2 weeks ago, I was on the floor crying. And that was part of why, this, we kept trying to meet up for scheduling to shoot this and stuff. And I know that I was moving through a lot energetically. And I know both of you were too, but that was literally me too. And it's like when you're in that moment, right? It's like, it's very, sometimes it's hard to see the big picture, but then if you could take that step back and take that deep breath and just be able to release it and allow yourself to just really break down, right? And just really release that energy. Oh my gosh, you feel so good afterwards. And, so, Barbara, of course, I was taking a peek at you, and what I wanted to look at is, how could you personally tell if your DNA was activated? So if I could connect with you and give you earth plane examples of how you're going to know, on top of what Zoe had said. And what you showed me, Barbara, was something really beautiful. And no wonder you live in Minnesota, right? I love Minnesota. It's one of my favorite states. And I love, I just love how connected you can be with Mother Earth when you live in a beautiful, beautiful place like Minnesota. And that's really what you showed me was, it was interesting because you took my attention and you really wanted me to focus my awareness on your feet. And when I focused my clairvoyant awareness on your feet, they lit up in this really, really beautiful golden energy. And whenever I see something about your feet, it's usually about like taking that step forward, right? So you're ready to be activated. And how you're going to know, like when you are DNA activated, is your steps are going to be lighter, right? It's going to feel like your steps in life are going to feel lighter. And really what that means is, right, when we're going through a lot of stuff, I'm sure we all can understand the metaphor of oh my gosh, I just feel so heavy moving forward, right? It feels like a weight on my shoulders. It feels like I'm carrying bricks, right? For some reason, it just feels so hard to move my body forward into that next step. So how you're going to know is all of a sudden those steps become lighter, right? It's like really easy to move that body forward into that next step. It just feels so light for you. And so you have this beautiful golden energy that's starting in your toes, right? And of course, it's sucking up, a lot of Mother Earth energy. And once you get that concept of like, wow, okay, that was a little bit lighter. Oh, that feels a little bit lighter. Oh, that was really easy. Oh, okay, right? And you really start picking up your stride. And all of a sudden, your whole body lights up with this golden energy. So that's how you're going to know your DNA was activated, is your steps become much lighter. So I hope that helps. And let us know, Barbara. Okay, Zoe, so our final question comes from Bruce in El Paso, Texas. And Bruce wants to know, how can I consciously activate my DNA?
Hi, Bruce. Great to meet you. And that's a really beautiful question. How can you consciously activate your DNA? So, really powerful expression that you can start saying every day is sitting quietly in meditation, closing your eyes, placing your hands on your heart, and imagine your mind's eye starting to open, your third eye starting to open, and imagine your DNA. So go into your consciousness, into your being, and imagine the little spirals of DNA. And imagine those spirals of DNA lighting up into gold light. And you can say, with the power of I am, I activate the 12 strands of DNA within me now. It is so, it is done. And you can keep reciting that a few times. And every time you say it, really go into your imagination. Really imagine all of your DNA lighting up golden light, golden spirals of light. And then if you are having difficulty with that, what you can imagine then is just bringing gold light down through the sky, down through the crown of your head, down through your entire being in your imagination now with the gold light, all of your little strands of DNA kind of vibrating and waking up and feeling alive. And then down, bringing that energy down through the soles of your feet, down into the earth, all the way down into the crystalline core of Gaia, grounding you into this moment. And keep reciting that invocation. And that's a really great, powerful tool that you can use every day.
Excellent. That was wonderful.
Ooh, I did it. It felt amazing.
So, Bruce, I was peeking at you and looking at, like, again, whatever your higher self wanted you to know about DNA and the activation of yours. And I got your dad's energy, honey. What I feel like this really is, and more this has been coming into my readings, it's really the shift of the paradigm of the male on the way that you were socialized by your father, the way that you were shut off from your emotions, quite probably by not just your dad, but all of the men that trained you to be a man. See, that's one of the interesting things about us being female-bodied people, is that when we went through puberty, our mothers didn't make us into women. Women don't make women. We start bleeding and we're a woman. But men are made in our society. So parts of you from your father and his father and his father have been taught to step to the side. So not only are you activating your DNA, but a lot of that is female DNA, female information. So I'm going to send my guide to work with you to really help you kind of start to pull out your own information about being male and the information you were programmed with. And I think that will make your DNA activation, I think it'll make it easier. And I also think that it'll increase your self-love. First, what I think, kind of being in between the genders, is the most difficult role to play in all these gender things is the alpha male. I feel so sorry. Like, we strip these people of their own innate, is my body safe? Is it not safe? And push them out there into extreme situations. So, my friend, part of your DNA activation will heal your programming as an alpha male, and you'll get to rejoin humanity. You're not stuck out there on an island where we expect you to kill everybody to protect us. So I think a lot of the activation of your DNA is going to be in your heart, brother. So thank you so much for, I hope I haven't been too forward with peeking into your, but I think it'll really, really help you, and probably a lot of other guys that are going to listen to this. So thank you so much, Bruce. And oh man, that was really intense. So Zoe, honey, thank you so much for being on Metaphysical Q&A's podcast. Now, would you please tell us how our listeners and viewers can learn more about you and your work?
Yeah, for sure. And thank you. Thank you, everyone listening, and thank you for having me on today. It's been a real pleasure to share this information with you all. So you can visit my website, which is www.zoedavenport.co.uk. And when you visit the website, if you sign up, you actually receive a free 90-minute DNA activation for abundance. And then you'll have access to a ton of free resources. I also have a Facebook group called Awakening to Love. And then my Facebook page is just facebook.com/Davenport Zoe. So you can reach out to me on Facebook and my website as well. So, yeah.
Well, Crystal, do you think we've done it again?
Well, Lauren, I do believe we've done it yet again with, of course, our DNA activation expert, Zoe Davenport, where we have made metaphysics crystal clear.
And golden delicious.
And of course, everyone, as usual, if you've heard your question answered here on this podcast, Lauren and I will offer you a free reading for submitting that great question. So please visit our website at www.metaphysicalqa and please click on the free reading button. And also, if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel or however you get your audio podcast, please do so. We would love for you to rate us, to review us, to subscribe, all of that good stuff, so you can get notifications of when we release our new information, and of course with wonderful experts like Zoe. And if you are interested in my personal work, you can visit my website at www.crystalsunshinepsychicservices.com.
And check me out on the internet, laurencielo.com and goldenrosepsychic.com. And Zoe, can you please give us your internet sites one more time?
Sure. So it's www.zoedavenport.co.uk.
Excellent. All right, everyone. Until next time, we'll call that a healing. Bye.
Please hang up and try again.